Welcome to the A2 Show with Andrew Cass and Aaron Parkinson, bringing you the trends and topics that affect our lives the most: business, politics, fitness, family, and finance. With over 50 plus years of combined business experience and over $1 billion in revenue generated, your hosts have a unique gift for seeing many steps ahead where others do not. They bring their unfiltered, contrarian views to the show every week to help you win in business and in life.
Welcome to the Revenue Multipliers preview, everybody. Andrew Cass here with Aaron Parkinson. What is this Revenue Multipliers we're talking about here, Aaron? We are giving you guys a pretty cool preview today of our soon-to-be-launched physical book called Revenue Multipliers. And this is going to be a 12-chapter glimpse at what's going to be made available, obviously, to our podcast show subscribers first. But the interesting thing about the Revenue Multipliers model, and we talked about this before, is what we've done is we've taken the very best of Sales Velocity TV over the last 4 years and put it into 12 core chapters and finessed it. Aaron, you did a lot of the legwork, which was great. Finessed it and put it in a playbook, if you will, that can help you 2x, 3x, 5x, maybe even 10x your revenue in your company. So we're excited to give you this little preview here today before the actual book is launched on this edition of the A2 Show.
I'm excited to talk about the book, but first, let's talk about that t-shirt.
What do you got?
Well, the first word that's coming to my mouth is sellout.
So yeah, I think I told you I took my son to a live golf experience at the Trump Doral in Miami about 3 months ago, just to see the whole vibe. I think this was right after they did the merger with PGA, which was shocking, right? It was animosity for a year and a half, and then it was all of a sudden we're a partnership, right? Out of the blue. People are like, what the heck just happened right here, right? So I just like the shirt. Good experience. I prefer PGA. I like the elegance of PGA. I felt that the live golf experience was a little bit more like spring break feeling, Cancun.
Definitely.
People drinking beers, a little bit of a sloppy environment. I like the clean cut. Shirts need to be tucked in. Guys need to be wearing pants on the course. I like that better. I've not been to a men's PGA, but I've been to a women's PGA. Live was loose and fun and loud, and again, it had that spring break element to it, which, yeah, for some people, I think they might like it. For me, I'm more traditional. I'm more of a traditionalist when it comes to the quiet when they're hitting and not screaming and yelling. This isn't a football game; it's a golf match, right? So, I don't know.
Yeah,
I like the shirt.
I'm definitely a hardcore traditionalist when it comes to golf. You know, I golf all the time, and that whole scenario with the people leaving and getting all the money to leave, and then
we were talking about that before, man. That was brutal.
I mean, and they were basically like hung out to dry publicly, and there was people that were hardcore fighting for the traditionalist stance, like Rory McIlroy, and then all of a sudden, a year later, we're merged, and those guys didn't take the money.
And knowing at the time when they took the money, which these guys got $100 million. The top 10 guys got $100 million each. Mickelson, Koepka, DeChambeau. These guys all got $100 million Saudi Arabian payday. Who wouldn't take that? But the trade-off was you're never allowed back in the PGA. So it was they cut the ties, right? What's the saying? They let the boat go, right? They cut ties. I don't know.
Yeah, they said, look, the paycheck is too high to turn down, and I play for money. This is like being a professional poker player. I play golf. I'm going to take the money. And listen, I don't fault people for making a decision for their families.
Nope.
It's more about the guys that didn't take it out of principle
because they wanted to maintain their
to dry by the PGA themselves when they ended up merging with them anyway. And the one that has taken the most beating to their personal brand was the guy that probably had the strongest personal brand of any golfer in Phil Mickelson. He was seen as
he was the godfather of PGA, the oldest guy out there in his 50s, 55 or something, still competing. And that was a big shock that he took the payday and ran. Hey, listen, he wanted to multiply his revenue, and he did it, pal.
Well, and here's the thing.
$100 million. They got taxed on that, you think? Probably, right?
For sure.
But if it's a check from Saudi Arabia,
Oh, for sure.
Do you think it was just straight up check and they deal with taxes on their own, or do you think it was somehow? And the only reason I'm asking is because it's not American money.
It's public though. So,
right. Well, I'm not saying they shouldn't pay taxes. I'm just curious if the $100 million was somehow pre-taxed, or was it just a straight up $100 million check, and then obviously you owe a chunk of earned income to the IRS, right?
I'm sure.
I don't know.
I'm sure it went to the IRS, but the reason why Phil took such a beating to his reputation and his brand is only about 3 months before that, he was being interviewed for a biography.
Is that right?
And they asked him about the potential involvement with the Saudis. And his exact quote was, "They're scary mother effers to get involved with. We know they killed reporter Khashoggi and have a horrible record on human rights. They execute people over there for being gay." And he said it was off the record at the time, and the author just outed him with it.
Wow. Yeah, I remember the Saudi Arabian issue for a little while about human rights and things like that, and some of the ways they treat women over there and whatnot. Their reputation is notorious for that. So it's, hey, why are you aligning yourself with this Saudi group if they do this, and this, right?
Well, and that's
which
why
were
his
valid
reputation-
questions. I mean, right, from a principle standpoint.
That's why his reputation took the beating. The other guys were like, "Hey man, I'm just golfing. I golf for money, like whatever." But he had come out, condoned them, and then taken the money anyway, which just made him look like such an unprincipled shill. And he just hasn't recovered.
I think you're right. His name isn't even in the mix anymore.
It's trashed. His sponsors are gone. People don't want to talk to him. They don't want to look at him. They don't want to interview them. He completely bombed his personal brand.
Yeah, and he had a legacy there, and I think he still will, right? I mean, he's a PGA guy. He's won a lot of tours, so. But yeah, I just like the shirt, buddy. It's these guys. Fittingly, we open with that topic as we're going to talk about how to really 5x or 10x your revenue here. I mean, think about a golfer. That's a lottery ticket right there.
Absolutely.
Well, let's talk about you, and let's talk about your business. And this is a business category today. And I think that revenue multipliers, the book looks amazing. I have to tell you that I think we did a good job picking the 12 best episodes of the last 4 years. And what we're going to do today is just give a quick rundown of the Big 12. We won't get into too much detail, a quick overview. And then, of course, when the book is launched, you'll have a chance to get it on Amazon in physical form sent directly to your house as well. So, Aaron, anything you want to preface this with besides the live golf stuff?
Well, I think that, the whole revenue multipliers thing is kind of us following the things that we teach. And, we've done a lot of episodes on how do you add credibility, how do you prop up your personal brand, how do you reduce friction when it comes to making sales. And we've always said having a book is one of the best things you can do. And you've had a book for quite some time, Sales Velocity.
I've done a couple, yeah.
You've done a couple. I had not. And I've had a lot of people saying, "Dude, when are you going to write a book?" And I just got so tired of talking about it and not having one that we ultimately said, "Hey, let's take some of the content from the show, repurpose it, put it into a book, wrap some unbelievable exercises around it so that people can implement it in their lives, and let's put it out in the real world." So this is a little bit of us, following our own recommendations and our own teachings and saying, "Wow, how come I'm telling everybody to have a book and I don't have a book?" So we've put it together, and we keep, improving it and massaging it, and it keeps getting better and better and better. And we're right at the tail end of putting it live.
Yeah, and I think it's pretty cool. The idea you had, which you guys will see when the book is live, is that at the end of each chapter, there will be some action steps. So it's not just read and hear about a strategy or philosophy. It'll be, here's what you can do next. Here's what to think about from the standpoint of you running your business. Here are a couple action items, right? So let's do a run through, Aaron, of the Big 12. So coming out of the gates, chapter 1, go.
Chapter 1 is online lead generation, today versus yesterday.
Okay, so you and I have been around the internet marketing game collectively probably 30, 40 years combined. So
absolutely.
Big difference today than years past, right? It's a very different ball game.
It is a very different ball game, and we're going to basically be going through the evolution of online lead generation strategies, comparing them to traditional methods. We're going to be setting the stage for how understanding the digital landscape has transformed over the years and why certain methods are more effective today. than other methods, and really just allow people to take a little bit of a dip into our brains and our conversations. I mean, Andrew, you put together a new product not too long ago on AI lead generation.
Mm-hmm.
You know, did all the things that we talk about in here, and then, you know, came to me and said, okay, you're the agency guy, you take it for me. I mean, we're generating for that, I don't know, 30, 40 leads a day in the first month. I mean, how many people have businesses where they've consistently got 30, 40 leads a day coming in, book calls coming in on autopilot?
I think a lot of people watching this would love to have that scenario, right? So
absolutely.
There you go, chapter 1, right? We'll link to that down below. That's a good point.
Absolutely. And then chapter 2, we go into identifying your USP, which stands for unique selling proposition. That's a big one.
That's a big one because I find a lot of, and I probably on a regular basis, Aaron, consult with maybe in a given month, and you can tell me what your numbers are too, maybe about 10 to 15 brand new business owners in a given month. I don't mean brand new in business. I mean brand new as in I'm talking to them for the first time. They're coming to me as part of, you know, our company's setup and tech and funnel stuff we do, but I consult from a strategy standpoint. And a lot of them struggle with clarity. And unique selling proposition is, are you clear on what makes you different? And so few are, right? What is your difference maker? What is your unique selling proposition? That's one of those things where you need to know that right out of the gates. Or if you're struggling and you've been around for a while, good chance that if you're struggling, it's because you don't know what makes you different and you don't pound that differentiator in the marketplace in your marketing. And that's where unique selling proposition comes in. USP, big one.
Absolutely. And the market is crowded in almost every
very
space.
Noisy.
So you better be very clear on how you stand out and you're better than your competition.
Right. So look, kind of setting the stage in chapter 1 of the world then in the world today and how to navigate fast changes in digital media. So it's always nice to take a little trek down history lane to begin to set the stage. What makes you unique? There's some exercises in there. What's number 3?
Number 3 is traffic and list building secrets, where we dive into the specific strategies for driving traffic, like building an email list, which are crucial for acquiring customers, nurturing customers, or nurturing leads really, and converting them into customers. So it's really about, how do you get in front of the right people? How do you bring them into your ecosystem? How do you nurture them? And eventually, how do you turn them into customers?
Yeah. And I think that as a business owner, you need to always be thinking about, are you building a list or lists with an S? Absolutely. Email list, physical mail list, SMS list, because the majority will not be ready to do anything with you at this time. So if you don't have a list and a way to communicate with them past that initial point of contact, you're in trouble.
Absolutely. And you're always in that perpetual eat what you kill mentality, or worse, sit and wait mentality. Like, when is a customer going to show up today?
Yeah. And that's one of the downsides. And we talk about this in the book and a lot on the show is, if you're just a referral driven business, you're on shaky ground, right? You're not generating, you're waiting. Not good.
Yeah. It's a lack of predictability, which is terrifying as a business owner. So we go into chapter 4, the truth about sales funnels, where we're going to demystify sales funnels, explain what works and what doesn't. And we're going to offer a critical analysis of the sales funnel concept and provide practical advice on how to design and optimize funnels that convert.
Yep, good, because it'd be really difficult to scale a business today without a sales process, aka sales funnel. We've done many shows in the past under Sales Velocity on the sales funnel. And for those that maybe aren't online tech people, a sales funnel is just a flow through a process that is taking somebody to a direct decision to make a sale, book a call, whatever. Very, very few businesses have it to this day. Surprises me, Aaron, how few businesses have a quality sales funnel in place. I'm always in a sales funnel mindset. I feel like everything needs a funnel. Maybe not everything, but that's how I'm wired. A lot of businesses today have a big brochure online, corporate website, about us, sitemap, services. That isn't a funnel. That's more of an information page and a brochure. A funnel is a web presence that gets somebody directly to your product or service without any distractions, without any site maps. It's just a very, very disciplined, focused process. We call it a direct response process.
And you got to remember that the average conversion rate to a corporate website is 1% or less.
At best. I mean,
because there's just so much information. There's no focused direction. There's a lot of distractions. Having a sales funnel focuses them on one specific customer path that you can predictably replicate, and your numbers are significantly higher from a conversion perspective.
Aaron, a lot of people get on media today: Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Google, the big four, TikTok even, and they use their corporate website to drive traffic, and they wonder why none of it works for them, because they're sending people to this large brochure that doesn't really take them down a path. And
Correct.
That usually has them out of that game really fast. You're driving traffic for different clients every single month in and month out. I would bet you wouldn't even let a client activate $1 of ad spend if they didn't do it through a disciplined, very specific, unique funnel, correct?
Absolutely. I'd actually take it a step further. When clients have large volumes of traffic going to their traditional corporate website, the first thing we do is we put tracking pixels and variables on that corporate website, and then we retarget their current corporate website visitors into a funnel so that we can actually capitalize on the organic traffic they might be getting to their corporate website.
You just gave me a brilliant idea, because we're not doing that right now on our corporate website, by the way, because we're so funnel focused. I don't even think about my corporate website. It's funny you bring that up, Aaron. I'm talking to my affiliate manager yesterday. He goes out and recruits affiliates for us. So he's always asking questions. What about this group? What about that group? And one group came to him and said, well, we need to know what the organic traffic is to their corporate website so we can gauge how much presence they have in the marketplace. And I'm like, well, why would he want to know that and not our sales numbers? Conversions, how many people hit the sales page, not the corporate website, the sales page. Sales page gets hit X amount of times per month, somewhere around 10% buy our first product, maybe 20% buy the second product, whatever. Those are the real numbers. And he was like, yeah, you're right. Those are the real numbers. So, the corporate website thing, people get hung up with their traffic, their organic traffic. You should get hung up with your sales numbers and your conversions. But good point you made about flipping that organic traffic right over to retargeting, which, by the way, you might want to unpack what retargeting is for some that don't know.
Retargeting just means that when somebody has already viewed something that you have done before, most of the major, if not all of the major traffic engines that are out there will give you the ability to track them and pixel their journey, and then come and show them a different ad later, because not everybody's ready to buy the first time they see something. So are you better to show your product, your offer to somebody who's already engaged somewhere else and maybe was just busy, or are you better to go after somebody who's completely cold? Well, you're better to go after somebody. For example, one of the first campaigns we always launch is, if you're really active on Instagram, for example, we will target all the people who've ever engaged with your page. So if they've liked, commented, shared, watched a video, that's the first group that we'll target, because they already know you, they're already engaging with you. They're the highest intent people that are going to buy from you.
Yep. Love it. 5? Or was that 5?
Number 5, branding versus marketing in the new digital economy.
I think it speaks to everything we just talked about. Most really people think branding is marketing, and it's really only an element of marketing. Right?
And what we go into is the difference. We differentiate between branding and marketing, highlighting their roles and their importance exclusively in each one of their departments in today's economy. And we're going to discuss how you balance both to maximize reach and impact.
And I think you have to have both. So you want to have a branding strategy, but you don't want to be thinking like an advertiser. Coca-Cola has an unlimited ad budget. They're always advertising, not marketing. Big difference. They're on TV, quick 30-second, 20-second commercials where they're just showing their brand. They're not really telling you to do anything specific. They don't have a phone number for you to call or a website for you to go to. They're just saying Coca-Cola tastes better. Coca-Cola is a lifestyle drink. Coca-Cola is cool. Coca-Cola is fun. It's just branding. As a small to medium-sized business owner, you don't have the time or the money to play that game. I'm not saying don't do it, because I think social media is a great branding platform, right? We can bypass TV and radio today and be on social media for free. But the marketing is the proactive going out and acquiring customers in a certain target audience with your unique selling proposition and with your sales funnel. So you see where the chapters leading up to this point are building little pillars that need to be in place to get to the big advertising and branding conversations. There are certain assets that need to be in place for that to actually work for you. So really it's a combination of both, but I would say the small to medium-sized business owner or the solo entrepreneur who's just getting started, branding wouldn't be a good use of time. It's marketing and advertising, rolling up your sleeves, going out, shaking hands, meeting people, running ads, being active on social media. That's marketing. That's more of a proactive approach.
Yeah, and you really do have to have both. Because somebody once described it to me, and I thought it was a good analogy, that marketing is your muscle and branding is your soul.
I like that.
So when somebody looks at your business online, they look at what you stand for, how you communicate, what things you might be involved in, how it makes you feel. That's your branding. Your marketing is your brute force acquisition, selling of your product, building of your list, following up with it. Marketing is much more acquisition focused, where branding is much more engaging at an emotional level with your target audience. The thing is, like, you look at Coca-Cola. Coca-Cola doesn't need to run direct response marketing. They don't need to come out and say, Coca-Cola, buy a case today and we'll give you your second one for 20%.
There's no
off.
offers,
right? There are no offers.
There's no
right?
discounts.
So
right?
Almost everything at this point for Coca-Cola is brand based because they've grown beyond the need for traditional marketing. Now it's all about branding and eyeballs, and the rest takes care of itself.
Yeah, and I feel like the branding thing, it tends to always be a sticking point, this branding versus marketing thing. I'm having conversations about this all the time. I feel like you earn the branding, but you need to earn it through getting yourself to a spot in marketing where you're so well known that now you're just branding. So a lot of people in the consumer space, specifically nutritional supplements, let's say, man, I got to get on the shelves of GNC and Whole Foods. And I'm like, no. That's not where you start. That's where you end up, right? You've made so much money. You've proved concept with your fill in the blank protein shake, and you've got it selling online, and you're keeping all the profit, and the margins are good. Now you take the leap to being on the shelves if you want to be. That's where the least amount of margin is. And by the way, that's where the least amount of traction is. I always want to stop someone when they're like, I just want to be on the shelves of Walmart or Whole Foods. That's the last place you want to be, because you're making the least amount of money and you're in the most amount of noise. So I feel like you earn the right or the spot to be a big brand. You don't start there, you end up there. So that's why I always say direct response marketing and is first. It's the foundation, and branding just is something you earn and get to later, if at all. If at all, you don't need to be a big brand, right? You can be a massive business in a small niche without being some big brand that everybody knows about. It's not required.
It just depends on where you want to take your company.
It's really about your goals, right? It's your goals about where you want to be. Do you want to be a big brand out there like Coca-Cola, or do you want to be a big authoritative name in a small niche, which might be more profitable?
Agreed.
Go to 6.
So we go into chapter 6, storytelling for ultimate selling success.
The power of the story, right? Mm-hmm. At every chance you get, I would say you've got to somehow find the human connection component in that storytelling. Since the beginning of time, we're wired to reciprocate and resonate and click with stories.
Absolutely.
Not easy to do, though. Not easy to do.
And Simon Sinek talks about all the time that facts and figures are cerebral and buying is limbic. It's where your gut feeling is, and people often trust their gut when they're listening to stories that they can see themselves inside of the core character. Yeah. So the better you can get at telling stories in your marketing, the higher your conversions are going to be.
So in that chapter, we broke down on a full episode of Sales Velocity some of a lot of examples of how you can use storytelling without needing to be a master storyteller or writer. A lot of it is just being authentic and sharing your story. You have one. We all have one. It's why you're most likely in your business. So it isn't about going out and writing a novel. It's more about utilizing what got you to where you are today, what makes you different. And a lot of it is because of the story, because a lot of people in business, they're in the business they're in because they, in most cases, overcame a problem for someone or themselves. And that's why they're doing what they're doing. They feel a passion to do it, and they turn it into a business. And that's a great story that often isn't told. And if it's told, it really just creates a much better customer.
It's actually known in the marketing circles as your origin story.
Exactly.
So when people can see themselves in your journey, they're much more likely to follow you from a tribal perspective versus just a consumer perspective.
And they're much more likely to do what everybody's after more than anything else, and that's to trust you, right? So there's a trust component. A good story equals a lot of trust in the marketplace. So I'm always impressed with the business or the entrepreneur who can write a good story and tell a good story. I see it rarely, but when I see it, I'm like, man, that's genius, right? I like this person or this brand already because of the story component. So that's a one we threw in the middle because now we're getting creative.
And it just makes me, I feel like I have to share an example because you just said that.
You want to tell me a story?
A little bit, yeah. So I went on Google the other day and I Googled Basecamp. I don't remember why. Maybe I was trying to log back in. We use Basecamp for a lot of project management. And I don't know if you understand branded keyword in Google, but a lot of businesses will actually bid on their own name because if they don't, their competitors will bid on their name. And as a result, somebody who's wanting to search for Basecamp might see an offer for 5 other project management softwares above, the listing for Basecamp.
Sure.
So they actually had their own listing. And then underneath it said, this Goliath that we advertise on allows our competitors to put themselves above our name, even though we rank first. So we are forced to put this ad here, which we are very disappointed about.
Wow. So that's memorable.
It was very memorable. And I was like, well played.
Wow.
Well played.
I love it.
It was awesome.
I love it.
So let's go into chapter 7, education-based marketing, the secret to next level growth. So
my favorite.
It is your favorite. So obviously storytelling is a big part of it. If you can tell a story and then you can combine it with the 1-2 punch of educating somebody where they feel like they got a tremendous amount of value from you before they got your pitch, your credibility and your trust just goes through the roof.
So Aaron, when that within Pipeline Pro, one of the core upgraded services we offer is the architecting of a sales funnel.
Correct.
And we never do it if it's not an education-based, information-based process in which if you're a business owner, I don't know, let's say you're selling weight loss supplements. I don't know. I'm throwing this out there, right? Then we wouldn't build a funnel that just sells the supplement. We'd most likely build a funnel that educates people on how to lose weight and has something really different and unique about it. And as they take themselves through that little presentation, 15, 20 minutes, whatever, could be a free report, could be a little video, could be a little webinar, could be a little TED Talk style presentation. Then the next best logical step would be for them to get the solution that can help them to lose the weight. So the concepts and the information and the education come first. This takes a lot more work. This takes a full month to architect versus 10 minutes. Anybody can throw up a sales page that says, go book a call to get on my calendar so I can tell you my weight loss product and we can talk about it. But that's an immediate guard up resistance. It's what if I could show you 3 things that almost no one knows that could show you how to lose 10 pounds in less than 30 days and keep it off. Now it's like, okay, I want to learn this right now. I've got to win right now. And then inside that presentation, oh, by the way, one of the components of these 3 pillars is using this supplement or this product line or this coaching program or this technique. And that's where you embed your product and service post information education. Right. And this is one of those things that very few do because it takes a lot of work and a lot of thought. Research. This is a really important chapter.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's go into chapter 8, the anatomy of a perfect sales call. Do you like how this is like flowing from one thing to another? So if I've gone out and I've figured out my marketing and I've figured out my traffic and my list building secrets and my funnel and my storytelling and my education, guess what's going to start to happen? People are going to start showing up on your calendar. And then you or your sales team has to start talking to them.
Somebody needs to sell somebody something at this point. I think what we've done for the first half of the book is built this wonderful foundation of the right messaging and the uniqueness and whether it's a funnel process or not. Really the strategy, right, has gotten laid out here. Now, okay, we've got to now sell something. We've got to now make some sales and communicate and persuade and move people to a decision. So now we're into selling. And this is where you and I we were selling before the internet. My first book, Aaron, not my first book, but one of the books you mentioned, Sales Velocity. One of the unique things, unique selling proposition that I did in Sales Velocity is I blended old school versus new school selling techniques, where there was a combination of all the new internet tools like email follow-up and webinars, but a lot of the old stuff like outbound phone calls, meeting in person, events, right? So what you'll notice in that chapter is a little bit of the sales velocity component of blending old school with new school in what we call a multimedia format, which means you're selling to people in various different ways because people consume in very different ways today. Some people only consume, they'll only buy something in person, or they'll only buy something on a Zoom, or they only will buy something on a website without speaking to somebody. So you want to make sure you blend all those elements into your sales process where you have options and you have different ways to get to people based on their decision. As an example, Aaron, you and I, you're running traffic for one of my new offers right now. And I messaged you a few days ago and I said, Aaron, we're doing everything that we need to do to get leads in. Check. Great conversion rate. People booking on the calendar. Check. Great conversion rate. People showing up on the calendar. Good conversion rate, but that can always be higher. That's always the whole. But if they don't buy because maybe it's too big of a leap, now I'm inserting a unannounced free trial of the software offer. Another way to sell, more of a downsell for people who aren't ready to do the thing right now. Maybe it's too big of a leap. Maybe they need to test it, try it. So, but I don't know any of this until I test.
Correct.
I can't find out any of this till I test, but my sales process and yours also should be always changing and evolving based on data. And that's the data that we're seeing is I don't like the number of people getting started. Therefore, I'm gonna create even less resistance and make it a no-brainer. And you know that now we're working on that 10-day free trial, which will be a downsell to any leads coming in, which is, it's tough to say no to a 10-day free trial. I'm in the tech space, so obviously it's a little bit different. You might not have a business that warrants a free trial of any kind. But if you could ever, in your sales process, as a downsell, figure out a way to get people engaged and involved in a small way where you make a small investment into that prospect to get them to use your thing, try your thing, see your thing, you'll have a higher conversion rate potentially out the back door. It will just take a little more time and a little bit more investment into, because that's not free for us. It's free for them, right? So well,
that bridges quite well into chapter 9, which is why they say no.
Did we do 8? Was that 8?
We did. The Anatomy of Perfect
9.
Sales Call, number 8. And chapter 9 is why they say no, how to elegantly overcome objections.
There you go, right? Why they say no. And the reality is most of them say no. We've put up that pyramid before, Aaron, that exists inside the ultimate sales machine that we reference a lot, where realistically at any given time, only like 3% of your audience is ready to buy right now, which leaves you in a big 97% hole. This is the missing link in all sales processes, is they don't really think about what am I going to do with the 97%. It's 3% buy or die. So we want to give you as many ideas as you can so that you increase that 3% to maybe 10%, 15%. And there's different tiers. We should probably include that buyer's pyramid in there.
It's funny, I have it up right now.
You have it up? That's a good image.
3% are active buyers, 7% are open to the idea of buying.
So there's 10.
Right? 30% are not thinking of buying. 30% don't think they're interested, and 30% know they're not interested. So most people are focusing on that 3%. We know we don't want to go after the 30% that know they're not interested.
Yeah,
that's a waste of time and money.
You're beating your head against the wall, right?
But there's 30% who don't think they're interested, probably because they're not educated well enough. You got 30% who are not thinking of buying, that just haven't been educated as to why this product or service is going to improve their life. And then you got 7% who are open to the idea of buying, who just need to have their concerns or their objections handled. So there's an additional 7, the 67% that most people aren't focused on, that this will help them tap into, which is a lot larger than 3%.
Absolutely. Aaron, let's definitely, as we're talking through this, let's definitely include that image in the book.
Sure.
Maybe make a mental note of that right now. We're right now in the final editing phase of the book, which I think it's great that we're talking through it, because as we talk through it on the podcast here, we're going to come up with some ideas on maybe what we can add and what we can take away. But I like imagery, right? That's a really good image that has stood the test of time in chapter 9. Let's go to 10.
So chapter 10, which I'm actually modifying as we're sitting here, because I'm like, I want to beef that up a little bit, is trust-based marketing and customer retention.
Ooh, this is a biggie today.
Right? So
could write a whole book on that alone right there, Aaron. That is,
yeah. I mean, right now there's so many negative elements pressing on the economy right now, which we've talked about on the show for the last month.
Sure.
That if you want to maintain or grow right now, everything is about the elements that you put in to boost the trust with your prospect, because without it right now, the confused mind says no.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Trust. There was a great book that Dan Kennedy wrote years ago called Trust-Based Marketing. What a great name. Trust-Based Marketing. What are all the ways you can build trust from beginning to end? Everything we've talked about in the first 10 chapters, right, are all ways to build trust. If you have a unique selling proposition, you'll build trust. If you have an information education-based offer, you're going to build trust because you've created value. So it's almost like you want to get to the destination where it's really difficult for someone not to trust you. You've checked all boxes. You've dotted all I's, crossed all T's. We can trust you, the business owner. That's where you want to get to. So we unpack this trust-based concept, which is really the destination. What is that, chapter 9 or 10?
That is chapter 10.
That's 10. So now we're getting to the finish line. What's 11?
Well, chapter 11 is the top 10 marketing mistakes entrepreneurs make and how to avoid them.
Ooh, so this is like a little bonus chapter, right? Here are the things you don't want to do along the way now that you've probably architected a big, beautiful house here in chapters 1 through 11. This is one that I grabbed from many years ago in the direct response marketing world that has stood the test of time. The list of don't to do's, the list of what not to do's, I should say. We all know at the end of the day what we need to do in business, what we need to do with our nutrition, what we need to do with fitness, what we need to do with family. But really, we don't often do it. So oftentimes when you flip the script and you look at, here are the things you don't want to do, they tend to motivate a little bit more than the things that you need to do. You almost feel like the things you need to do, you're like, I know I need to do that, leave me alone. But here are the things that you shouldn't do ever if you want to be successful marketing your products and services. Oftentimes we'll resonate more with that than we will with being told what to do. So we'll flip the script on you a little bit. Number 10, 11, 10?
Yeah.
That was 10 or 11.
That's 11.
What's
and
12?
We've got our last chapter that we're coming into as I scroll down here. Chapter 12, now that you've done all of these things, you're predictably bringing people in, you're making sales, you're growing your business. Advanced strategies for increasing the lifetime value of your customers.
So now advanced, right? This is something we've talked about on at least 4 or 5 shows over the years on not being a one and done business owner where you have one product and one service and that's the end of it. I was on a consulting call on just this topic yesterday, Aaron. And this lady I was talking with, she said, I said, what are you selling when, we built our whole funnel, we built our whole process. So it was sort of a closeout strategy session. So I don't see the sales side of things. I see the marketing side of things, right? We've built the whole system. We put it on Pipeline Pro Tech. We built the funnel. And I said, because we had time, I said, let's talk a little bit about your sales process. What are you selling when you have a session with someone? She's in the functional health space. It's a $1,500 coaching program and it's 6 months. I said, okay, good. What else? That was it? That was it. I said, what do you mean that's it? No really high ticket offer, no low. Well, I kind of have a low ticket offer. So right off the bat, I said, you've got to have not just a one and done product. You've got to be able to say, my premium package starts here and maybe it's $10K and it's with me one-on-one. And then our middle of the road package looks like this. And then we have a do-it-yourself, sort of a self-serve option over here. You want to sell from top down, very important. So these advanced strategies on selling from top down and having the ability to increase the customer value, and more so being able to go back to them with something else, maybe as a phase 2 or a phase 3, is really where the customer value heats up. The transaction is great, but it should never end at the transaction. It should be the beginning of not only a relationship, but the beginning of other products and services that increase their value to you and your value to them, because you're delivering more goods and services that can probably help their life and their business.
Yeah, every time I look at a client's product portfolio, I always ask them the same thing. What's next?
What's next? Big question.
What's next? And often they go, well, there's nothing next. And I go, why? And, if you're serving your clients at the highest level, then whatever they bought from you should bring them to a new place, which will create new desires, new problems, new frustrations. And you should be serving them with the solution to that. And it could literally go on in perpetuity. There's a reason why, for example, the university system has a bachelor's, a master's, and a PhD.
Good example.
It's not just because they want to educate people and give people the options to go further into what's next. it's also because they understand the cost per acquisition to get a new student in the door. And in order to be able to pay all their bills and be profitable, they need to have other products to offer people and serve them at a higher level.
Yeah. And I would be thinking this is a great one too, to end off on. Maybe we can elaborate on this here is looking at your company now and figuring out, can I carve out a new division, a new vertical, a new offering? Maybe I partner with somebody else on an offering, right?
Sure.
Maybe somebody has, I've maxed out what I can do with my product and service. And is there a company I can do an alliance with that is a congruent fit to the first thing they bought, right? We're always looking at different elements. I'm doing it right now in my company, building out another lead generation division of the company, right, on top of the software that exists within, right? I know you're building a traffic training coaching program on top of all the agency work you've done over the years. Well, what about coaching on doing what we do, right? You're doing that now yourself. So you and I in 2024 will have two totally different continuity-based, by the way, continuity-based verticals within our company that technically could stand alone. I think this is a key point, Aaron, that if they're done right, they can stand alone. Meaning, what if, God forbid, lightning struck tomorrow and Pipeline Pro and 7 Mile Media disappeared just like that? Could this new vertical take traction and stand on its own? This is how I'm thinking now. I think you probably are as well. That's a pretty cool place to be, is when you have verticals. Could my agency within Pipeline Pro that builds the funnels and builds all the that could easily be a standalone business. I could go to the marketplace with our sales funnel CRM build out agency. I have 3 people full time just in that, right? So you want to be thinking about, can I take this almost create like a spider web effect within my business and not just be a one and done, just this product and service. What else can I add to, and keyword here, portfolio? Do you have a portfolio of income streams? These are the advanced strategies on increasing customer value, but also creating nice stability within the company and within the brand. This does create stability because multiple sources of income equals stability. One source goes away, 2 sources still live, right?
Yeah, and it's also about setting yourself up for success when you grow. Because if your lifetime value on a customer is only $500, well, you can't really scale your marketing efforts too large because your margins get thinner the bigger you try to scale, right? If your lifetime value is $2,000, $3,000, $10,000, $100,000, $250,000, you can outspend all of your competitors and just put them out of business.
And that's a big comment you made right there, because the advanced lesson here is he who can spend the most to acquire a customer wins. Most people go, whoa, what did you just say? I want to be able to spend the least amount of money to acquire a customer. That's winning. And actually it's not. It's a contrarian approach. It's exactly the opposite. If your competitor is only willing to spend $100 to get a customer and you're willing to spend $300 to get a customer, you have absolutely the leverage and the advantage over him because you can outspend him by 3x. Correct. That's usually a one of those things where you hear it and you're like, I remember when I heard it for the first time, thank goodness it was 20 years ago and not 2 years ago, right? When I heard it 20 years ago, it was like, that was one of those moments where you're like, that's just a game changer thought to embed in your head early on. Right?
I literally had this conversation with somebody the other day because we were talking about the marketing that we will start for 7 Mile Media at the end of this month. And we were talking about the numbers and they said, well, most of the times, you can expect to get a booked call for around this amount. And I said, we can spend 4 times that amount.
Because
they said, oh my goodness, why would you want to spend 4 times that amount? I said, because
the reaction is always, why would you want to do that? Right? It's funny.
I said, because I want the right person. I could care less about the wrong person. And my LTV is so high that even if it's at that level, I'm printing money. So don't worry about it.
LTV, by the way, lifetime value. Just want to point that out. That's and this is why this is the last chapter, is because now that you've got these frameworks in place, it's okay. Let's think advanced. And I think what you're also going to find in the book is one of the things we'll be doing quite a bit of in probably 2025 is bringing a lot of this live, right? Doing big live events or mastermind style events where we take this revenue multiplier 12-step process and we bring it live, because a lot of times you can get so much out of a book, but when the book actually becomes a live event and you're in a room for 2 days or 3 days, that's where things really get That's where the $1 million thoughts come from when you're in an isolated environment. You and I both know, Aaron, from doing, probably 400 plus events combined in the last 25 years. And you and I both know that at the end of those events, when you're doing this stuff in person, people come away changed. It's transformational, where a book can be. But again, it's read in between the life and the day-to-day, and you read a chapter here and there, and you can implement, but sometimes you get away from it. But if you take that book and you take that Revenue Multipliers 12-step process and you spend 2 days with us, which is what I envision, by the way, right, is a 2-day, revenue multiplier mastermind, concepts 1 through 6 on day 1, concepts 7 through 12 on day 2. You're walking out of there with a revenue multiplier machine, which is our ultimate goal. I think I let the cat out of the bag a little bit on that one.
Well, you're going down the rabbit hole of what's next, but hey, we were talking about
what's next, right? Exactly. So that's a quick preview of Revenue Multipliers, soon to be released. Info over at the a2show.com. Aaron, I don't know if you want to dovetail into any other topics, but I thought we'd take this episode to do a preview, if you will, inside the Big 12, and it looks like these are the 12. I don't know that we'll be adding anything else, but we're still massaging, and I know that's on your side. You've been doing a great job with that.
Yeah, I'm excited to get the book out into the world and really probably just open up a lot of people's minds to what's possible, and then from there, who knows where it goes? It could be into masterminds. It could be into, coaching with us. It could be into, being a client with Pipeline Pro or 7 Mile Media. There's so many options. It's about understanding what you need and then figuring out what the plan is so you can go and put it into play.
And I think the big takeaway before we wrap here is, how are you planning on executing your book if you don't have one, right? We did it through 12 podcasts. Something we recommend a lot on the show is, if you don't have a show, go get a show, because all the talking can be transcribed and easily converted into a book or a free report or some sort of a webinar. And that's very powerful to be able to have that content out there all the time. Very few people very few people repurpose their content, and repurposing content is the name of the game today in this content world that we live in. It's a shame if you do content and then it just dies the next day, or it goes on social media for an hour and it's dead the next day, right? That's weak, right? All that work to get an episode like this, and there's no marketing, there's no production, there's no tail on it, and it doesn't lead anywhere. I mean, oof. Think deliberately, right? When you're doing content, can it become a book? Can it become a show? Can it become a podcast? That's what I would want to leave everybody with is, hey, if we can do it, you can do it. We simply did it based on 12 episodes. Most people have a podcast today, right? So think, okay, if I have a show, why the heck am I not breaking this thing up into a book? Or if I have a book, why don't I just turn my book into a show? I have a 15-chapter book. I mean, there's my first 15 episodes. So vice versa.
Or why don't
right?
I upload my book into ChatGPT and say, please make me 100 different social media posts from my book. And now, boom, your calendar's done for the next 6 months.
Yeah, we really should do an AI episode here soon on some of because you've become like the AI ninja over here with the prompting. And Aaron did a full training with my team on prompting. Prompting is the name of the game with AI. You could get these robots to do almost anything. It's incredible today. The AI helped us with the book. I mean, we did the show, so obviously the content is ours, but I think it's safe to say that the AI tools that you used really refined it and sharpened it and gave us a little more meat, right?
Absolutely.
So I think that's something we can probably look at doing here in the near future. So Aaron, let's wrap it there. Again, quick preview of Revenue Multiplier, soon to be released. By the way, the key in physical form, not just digital, right? Physical form. Book can be in someone's hands, right? Very important, has a shelf life and can sit on someone's shelf. People don't throw books away. They'll put them on a shelf. They feel very bad throwing a book away. So key is to go physical and digital, and much more to come. Obviously, when the book is live and ready to go, it'll be announced here on the A2 Show. That's Aaron. I'm Andrew. This one's a wrap. We'll see you guys soon.